Just a quick little disclaimer, this episode of Hot News was filmed just before Brett and them had to go back to the US. We are aware that it is out of focus, we just didn't have time to refilm it and fix it for you guys, but the next ones will be better again, and hopefully you guys still enjoy the episode. So yeah, here we go.
5060 and Ti launch details, 23andMe is bankrupt, and the RTX 5080 24 gig. What's going on? Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. As a reminder, I kept saying that we have a PC giveaway this Friday. It's actually next Friday over on Twitch. I forgot that I gave myself that little bit of leeway, especially as we return from South Africa. So get excited for that. You can go check that out over on twitch.tv/UFD Tech. And it turns out that you might be able to check out the 5060 Ti April 16th, because according to reports, that is going to be the launch day for that card, with the announcement for that card being the day before on April 15th, as well as the 5060 getting announced that same day, but that's not going to drop until later in May. So according to all of this, it looks like we're going to get the 8 and 16 gigabyte versions of these cards, very similarly to what we got for the 4060 and 4060 Ti. According to the embargo documents that are included with this launch, allegedly every single card partner is required to have at least one MSRP model. So hopefully that could allow it to be not as bad as the 5070 and up launches, where the MSRP models are actually still significantly more expensive than they were supposed to be. Maybe that alleviates this. Obviously, we don't know what stock is going to look like, and we also don't know how well they're going to hold to the MSRP. But given the fact that the RTX 5070 is still $549 at MSRP, Nvidia is allegedly selling it at that price, the Ti and the regular 5060 will likely still fall in line with where the 40 series was in terms of pricing. I don't have that confirmed, but just looking at where things are stacking up, it would make sense for Nvidia to launch the 5060 Ti 16 gig at $499 and then the 8 gig at $399. I really hope that they drop the price of the 16 gig to something like $449. I'll wait with bated breath on that one. And I'm waiting with bated breath to get home to play on my Falcon Northwest Talon, who's the sponsor of today's video of Hot News, because I got a beauty of a PC waiting for me at home. Yes, it has Reece's face on it. I get to check out Reece here in South Africa as we're visiting, but I always get to have him as a reminder in my home gaming setup, because Falcon Northwest can customize not just the inside of your computer with all of the greatest parts, Threadripper workstation, 50 series GPU, 9000 series GPU, but also the outside, printing on the outside and making it so that it is customized to your liking. And I'm going to tell you, Reece's face is to my liking. And to prove all that, they have their Assassin's Creed Shadows PC giveaway that they're doing in collaboration with us and Intel. And you have less than a day to enter. It looks like it's going to be closing at the end of March 25th. So make sure to get your last entries in for that over on the Gleam website. We're going to be announcing the winner here on Hot News later this week, but you got to get entered in order to win that. It's got an Intel Core i7-14700K. It's got an RTX 4080 Super. It's a beautiful PC on the outside. So you get Falcon Northwest's incredible build quality, incredible design on the outside. And also, if you buy a Falcon Northwest Talon, Tiki, or Frag Box, you get their 3-year warranty with 1 year of overnight service. The Tiki is very slim, can fit basically anywhere, and it can pack the highest end hardware of up to an RTX 5090. You got the Frag Box for toting around portably in case you're planning on going to any lands, or you're just a mogul who's on the move trying to make moves and shakes but still want to play your video games. Frag Box could be perfect for that. So you can check out Falcon Northwest at the link in the video description. Big thanks to them for sponsoring today's episode. Big thanks to them for giving me Reece in my house, and for them giving away a PC to one of you guys. Now, the next article is going to seem a little weird in context of a 4080 Super giveaway, but this is likely going to get resolved. I just want to comment on what I've been hearing about RTX 40 series GPUs suffering from blue screens of death and crashes with the latest Nvidia drivers. So reports are coming out from the internet. This is anecdotal, not necessarily something that's been super confirmed, but it's all over Reddit, that people who are on older series GPUs are having a lot of instability with the latest driver, allegedly because of things like DLSS frame generation with G-Sync lock being enabled, making it so that when you try to play Cyberpunk or Alan Wake 2 or God of War Ragnarok or the new Indiana Jones game, you're experiencing blue screens, you're experiencing problems, and you're not necessarily getting the best of support because Nvidia focused on the RTX 50 series for this latest driver update. So there are ways to fix it. You can disable frame generation or G-Sync, you can downgrade your DLSS version, lower your refresh rates, all of that, but likely Nvidia will have a fix out for this sometime soon. And I would like to take this time to point out that a lot of times whenever there's a new GPU launch, driver updates always get some sort of flack because, this new Nvidia driver nerfed my performance, when in reality, it's not like that across the board. It ends up being certain installs, certain problems with your specific installation of Windows and creating all of those hiccups. We've done testing in the past where if you just update the driver, you lose performance. But if you do the DDU uninstaller and actually uninstall everything first and then reinstall the GPU driver, it works totally fine and like it did before. So there's ways around it. It's kind of tricky sometimes when it comes to driver updates, knowing what's true, knowing what's just kind of people trying to look for a problem and enough people having those, because there's enough critical mass of people who have these cards that it creates a little bit of a controversy, but just something to keep your eye on, which is also what you probably want to do with 23andMe if you ever happen to use this service, to find that you're 1/3% Midwestern European hardcore or something like that, because they are filing for bankruptcy, Chapter 11 here in the United States, and their CEO is stepping down because of just a bunch of trouble that 23andMe has been in terms of financial issues and layoffs that they've had to do, but as well as data breaches with millions of people's genetic code just being spilled out onto the internet. And now that it's up for sale, it's kind of unknown what exactly is going to happen with that data. Obviously, you signed an agreement with 23andMe for certain privacy restrictions, but who knows how that'll be manipulated once a sale potentially goes through for the company. And there's plenty of articles popping up right now in case you're concerned on how to delete your data from them, in case that interests you. That's linked in the video description, which is also where Reece links his deals, saving you money on some tech products.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals on the internet. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope you guys had a good weekend, and hey, I got some deals for you. Starting today, we have this Controller Gear Xbox Pro charging stand for only $14.99, making it $25 off. But then next up, we have the Epo Maker and Leo Bog collab with the High 75 wired hot swappable gasket mount mechanical keyboard, which you can pick up for only $69.99, making it $30 off. I have one right here as my daily driver. And lastly, today we have the Apple AirPods Pro 2 wireless noise cancelling earbuds for only $169.99, making it $80 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news.
Hi guys, sorry the hot news was out of focus today. I didn't change it back to autofocus. It was on manual focus. That's my bad. So back to out of focus, Brett.
Well, Reece, I got a good news of a deal when it comes to Mindfactory, one of the largest retailers over in Germany for PC parts. It was reported earlier that they were facing some sort of insolvency, and thereby they weren't able to sell the latest Nvidia and AMD GPUs. They were struggling as a company, and it turns out that that appeared to be true. However, right now they're returning to normal operations, with Mindfactory putting out a statement saying that they've started their restructuring process, returning to normal, and that they're going to have a whole bunch of stuff that's changing over the next little bit, especially when it comes to organizational measures that have to happen for better financial restructuring. And it's not quite clear how long this is going to take, but they're going to be selling for the time being. They're also going to have their customer service operations still going, returns and service requests. Those are going to be processed as usual. So hopefully Mindfactory stays alive. From everything I know about them, they seem to be a very nice company to buy from. And I have heard nothing but good things from German fans of the channel in terms of purchasing from Mindfactory, especially when we initially reported on the insolvency. There was a lot of woe over the fact that that might be happening. So hopefully it's not a 23andMe situation where they might disappear. Hopefully they are able to restructure in a way that makes them healthy for the long term, which a lot of people argue 16 gigabytes of VRAM ain't healthy for the long term, especially when you're dropping $1,000 on a graphics card. RTX 5080, I'm looking at you. But for the second time, we are now getting reports of an RTX 5080 24 gig. Now, it is coming from the same source as the initial report, which happens to be MSI. They are listing an RTX 5080 24 gig GPU. Back with their launch video, their promotional video of the Vanguard 5080, they showed their box having 24 gigabytes of GDDR7 VRAM on the box. So this is something that was printed. This is something that they actually made, and it opens up questions to what exactly is going on with this GPU, especially with people saying 16 gigs isn't enough. So this newest report is them listing it on their website, an RTX 5080 with 24 gigabytes of VRAM. Everything else is listed properly. You have the 5070 with 12, 5070 Ti with 16, the 5080 with 24, and then the 5090 with 32. That is actually really well parsed. That's good segmentation. That would honestly probably make a lot more people happy as long as the 5080 stays at the same price. So speculation is that this could just be a typo from MSI. However, they did put it on a box, so it seems less likely that it's just purely a mistake. It could also be that at one point Nvidia was planning on making the 5080 a 24 gigabyte card, but at some point in the process they decided against it, likely for cost reasons. Everything I'm hearing about GDDR7 is that it's a tremendously expensive memory chip to put on these GPUs, so the profit margin likely wouldn't have been there for a $999 price launch for the 5080. And think about it, the 5080 is $1,000, the 5090 is $2,000. They have plenty of space in the middle there to charge you a little bit more for that 24 gigabyte edition, making more money thereby. And especially if they release the 16 gig where you're clamoring for that extra 50%, you want those little 8 gigabytes in your hands in your card, well, then they have created the demand and the pent-up feelings for wanting higher amounts of VRAM. So maybe there's going to be a 5080 24 gig edition coming in the future. Maybe there was one in the past and they decided to scrap it, or maybe this will not happen at all and this is all just a typo. What it is for sure is frustrating. 16 gigs on a 5080 for $1,000. Come on. And you guys came out and showed up in the comments when it came to Saturday's video on the 1060 versus 580, as well as on Friday's episode of Hot News. So let's go ahead and review what you guys had to say on that 1060 580 video, with Admiral saying, still using an RX 588 gig here. Since I don't play anything especially new, it's not really a problem. If you love your GPU, you love your GPU. If it works for you, there's no need to upgrade. A lot of people come into our Twitch chat and ask, is it worth it to upgrade to this? Is it worth it to get this new CPU or graphics card? And the answer for me is usually, does your current setup play the things that you like to play? If yes, why upgrade? If no, consider it, right? That's the general advice I want to give out there. Have fun with your stuff. If you're rocking it, don't let the fear of missing out get you to upgrade unnecessarily, or having some sort of upgrade need that you have to have the best and the brightest. Just enjoy what you have. It's good stuff. And then I gotta talk about this one. Mr. Altoid saying the RX 580 is in the same market segment as the 9070 XT. Inflation is crazy, right? To which a lot of people responded that's not true at all. To which their response was the 9070 XT is an RX 570 equivalent, and AMD said no high end this gen, so it's closer to 480. Hence, while I'll give them a high mid-gen class performance, that doesn't work at all in my perspective, because when the 580 came out, AMD was using a dual architecture launch. So Polaris was the low end. It was the entry level segment. The 9070 XT is not that. The 9070 XT is their mid to high tier launch, which was the Vega 56 and 64. And then their flagship card of that was the Radeon 7. So the 9070 XT is the Vega 64, the 9070 is the Vega 56, and then the 9060 XT and below are going to be more equivalent to the market segment of Polaris. And especially when you consider the pricing, this all kind of checks out. So I just disagree with this, whatever. And then VX Stream saying, it's funny how many times back then people, especially LTT, recommended as more premium card the GTX 1060 over the 580, and then only showed DX11 titles and totally skipped DX12 titles. But it's weird that the 580 don't get driver updates in years ends up more stable than the 1060 with new drivers. I want to push back on that as well. Back when those cards launched, DX12 was still nascent. It was still not in every game. DX11 was still the prominent API. Yes, there were new games coming out with DX12, but usually there was a DX11 version and a DX12 version that back then was worse. Like, it's easy in retrospect to be like, ha ha ha, you should have known DX12 was gonna work better on AMD cards because the two titles that were testable at the time showed that to you, but there was no way of knowing that over the last how many years these cards have been out. So give a little grace for, you know, not everything was known back then when it came to the new APIs. Vulkan was also brand new. We didn't really know how things were going to trajectorize. Was it going to be DX12 was the more popular one? Was it going to be Vulkan? There was a lot of clamoring at the time of new APIs being out there. So looking back in retrospect, it's easy to judge. The 1060 at the time of launch appeared to be a very capable, competent, good card that made sense against the 480. Let's remember that the 480 was actually the competitor to the 1060 and the 580 came out later. So it's not apples to apples here. And just want to say that. But let's talk about Friday's episode of Hot News. We got Mao saying, well, I'll be anti-MSI then. And then Cute Mega Panda saying anti-AMD PSUs for your anti-consumer practices, anti-consumer prices, anti-consumer GPUs. And then we got anti-GPU power supply wars happening now. Crazy. Yeah, it's not a great situation. I want more power cables. and then Carney saying, forget AMD. You can't use older Nvidia GPUs with new MSI power supplies because of that single 8-pin. Hey, I guess you have to go back pretty far, right? I mean, that's kind of true. The 3070 and up had the 12-pin power connector, but then the 3060 could work there. Going back to the 20 series, I guess, yeah, the 2080 Ti and 2080 potentially, but 2070, you could find those with single 8 pins. The 40 series, again, it was only the 4060 Ti and below that didn't have the 16-pin power connector. So again, those would be fine. It's not that bad when it comes to older Nvidia GPUs. It is worse when it comes to AMD and Intel. Also, especially, like, why are you upgrading to 1000 or 1250 watt power supply if you're on a 2080, right? Like, why are you doing that unless you're doing it in anticipation of a higher power card? It's not as egregious for me when you consider the older GPUs, in my opinion. And then Linka saying, Kyler just roaming around in the background in his boxers is kind of hilarious. I never knew we needed a grown man wandering around like a sleepy toddler in our Hot News until today. He was not in his underwear, okay? It's just he likes to wear shorter shorts. That's it. All right, it's a fashionable thing. He was wearing shorts, okay? His undies were under the shorts. And then we got Andre saying, I see Brett has been introduced to Switch. The Jelly Babies flavor is my favorite. One sip and you feel like you've just eaten a few amazing stuff. Also screw MSI, I'll stick with Superpower PSUs. Thanks. To which I had to respond, introduced? Brother, I was there when they launched. I have been consuming Switch for the better part of a decade, which, you know, Andre stood corrected, but this is just me reacquainting myself, also introducing Kyler and Michael to more flavors of Switch. My favorite is orange bubblegum or Iron Brew candy floss, which we haven't been able to find the candy floss one since we've been here. The Jelly Babies one was fine. I'm drinking the sour worms one this morning. I like Switch. I love Switch. If Switch wants to sponsor us in the future, that'd be great. I would love to have like a UFD flavor, just kind of like there's a Springbox flavor. That would be nice. Hit me up, Switch, if you know. And then this wasn't a public-facing comment, but it was an email that Falcon Northwest sent to us when I said that we wouldn't be in the same room because we'd have to go pick Reece up when it comes to filming Hot News, to which Falcon Northwest responded, "You wouldn't give Reece a ride?" I would have given Reece a ride. In our defense, publicly speaking, okay, the reason we don't give him a ride is that I'm filming this at like 6 a.m. and that dude's still sleeping. So I film Hot News significantly before he films Deals, and we don't have the infrastructure for him to do Deals here. So it's just, I've been giving Reece a ride everywhere. It just hasn't been here when I need to film at 6 a.m. to make sure our editors have everything ready to go when they start their workday. So that's why. But see you in the next episode.